Sponsors, so we have Bayou Bend Health System, Intermore, Omega Waste Management, and Patterson State Bank. So thank you to our elite sponsors. At this time, I would like to honor a very special person. So many times, administrative assistants are taken for granted and don't realize how important they really are. Each month, the Chamber honors one of these special people who help make the workday run smoothly. This month, we honor Ms. Pauline Johnson with the St. Mary Council on Aging. Ms. Pauline, please come forward and receive your plaque. Come around. You know this is a picture-taking moment. I know you thought you got out of it, but it doesn't work that way.
They won't be next to you.
Yes. Here you go, Ms. Pauline. Hold your flag. Go ahead. Good? Everybody good? Yes. Thank you. Did you know? No.
Congratulations. That is great.
Well, that's a wonderful surprise. We know how hard assistants work. Next, we would like to honor the September Business of the Month. This year marks 20 years that Wildflower Boutique has been one of the top shop-stopping unique fashion boutiques in our community. Congratulations, Wildflower Boutique. Alex Romero, owner of the Wildflower, please come forward to receive this plaque and say a few words. And let me tell you, this is a beautiful boutique in Morgan City. If you've not visited it, you need to go stop by. This is really, really an awesome store. So, get up again, gentlemen. Alex, in the middle, we're going to let you be the speaker.
All right. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Pull it up, pull it down, however you
All right, I just want to thank everyone, especially for supporting local. We have been around for 20 years. I've only owned it for 2, but my aunt, Frances, well, actually my cousin, but we're so close. She's like an aunt to me. She opened it 20 years ago, and I took it over 2 years. She moved to Metairie, so I was happy that she chose me to take it over. She had been on me for years and years to take it over, and I was actually a nurse before this, so it's kind of out of my ordinary, but I have fell in love doing it. We strive for the best customer service and to dress impress everyone. We have a little bit of everything, gifts, we have baby items, and also I cater all the way to a curvy line as well. So I try to cater to literally everyone. And I just want to thank y'all for supporting local and for supporting me. I always love to give back to the community. So any donations, I strive to give as well. So thank you all.
And I second what Alex said. Her story is beautiful. It's beautiful at Christmas time. And that is a given family. Her and her husband do a lot for the community. And so we truly, truly appreciate y'all. Now I would like to introduce Representative St. Blanc, who will introduce our speaker for the day.
Thank you, Laura. I appreciate this. Such a good friend. I could talk for a long time, but he said I got to get this over with, but I will say a few words. Elected in 2012, Clay Schexnayder is the member of the Louisiana House of Representatives, representing District 81. In January 2020, members of the House elected Schexnayder as their Speaker. His current term ends in January 2024. Clay is currently running for Secretary of State this fall. It says I'd like to welcome, but I'm going to take a few minutes because I really have to tell you what Speaker Schexnayder did for this community and what he did as a friend. Clay Schexnayder, when he came and asked me to vote for him for Speaker, it was way before he even thought about it. And as a freshman, I had the opportunity of being involved in the political of electing a Speaker. He has treated me, and he has treated this district more than any freshman that I can think about, because I've been there quite a while. And he did things, he let me actually be a part of leadership without having, I asked him for the committees I wanted, and he gave them to me. I went to him numerous times. He got there at 6:30 every morning, and I'd come at 7:30. And the Speaker's office has a balcony overlooking at all the parking lot. And he'd be on his phone out there, and I'd walk in and he'd spot me. And if he did like this, something was up. If not, he'd give me the okay. We always got it. He says, we got this. Everything that I'd asked him to do, he did for the people of this community. One of the biggest things that I can think of is that when solar came in, and they had a lot of the state and local landowners, these contracts that solar companies were coming in with were actually very detrimental to landowners and the state. Senator Allen took care of the state, and I took care of it, and I went to the Speaker, me and my brother, and Mr. Emery Belton, who's the lawyer, who had several of them, when told the Speaker what was in these contracts and stuff. And that day, he says, I'll make a task force. We'll hold them off for a year. We'll get everything done. Got in with Senator Allen, and we passed bills and laws that will protect. And now we protect the landowners, protect the state of Louisiana, because we were very familiar what it does. And that right there. And he made that task force, and it really, really, when it came, we passed laws, and he helped them pass us, and he actually took the bill. Here's a man sitting right next to him. I went to him. He had a speak. I told Clay, I said, Clay, you have an appointment to the Arts and Council Board. And I said, you know Tiger? He says, yes. I said, well, I'd like to have him on that board. And he says, I know Tiger. And he says, we'll give a shot to a rural deal to be put on that board. And he says, I'll make it happen. And Tiger, with that, just different things, everything that I've asked for. He was truly a friend. He has been here in my district more than I don't think a Speaker has ever been in a district. And I can't thank him enough. And when he looking at his next step, Secretary of State, there's not a person in this district that won't be able to call this man, because he knows everything about this district. He cares more about this district than a lot of other districts. And the loyalty that I gave him, he passed right back to me. So it's an honor to have a friendship with a Speaker that came up with working with his hands, came up and became the Speaker of the House, a working man. So it gives me a great pleasure. I would like to introduce and ask Clay to come up as my Speaker of the House, Clay Schexnayder.
Man, that was awesome, Vinny. Thank you for that, my friend. Look, it's a pleasure to be here, and Vinny's right. When it comes to getting things done, I can tell you that in Baton Rouge, it takes people working together. And Senator Alon, Representative St. Blanc, and the others in the delegation are a true sign of that, being able to work together. You know, right now in the country, you have all this separation and people not wanting to work together, and it's not a good thing anymore to work together. And I can tell you that this delegation and these people, and when Vinny was talking about the solar stuff, it didn't take us but a minute that we walked over and we saw Senator Alon, and he was on board and he was ready to fight the battles with us. And that's what it takes. It takes people to be able to come together, even sometimes when you may see it a little bit different, or you may live in a different part of the state. It's something nice to know that people can come together and do that. And you know, it reminds me. I heard the other day I was at a function and I heard a Boudreaux and Thibodeau joke, and it kind of reminded me of that. You know, Boudreaux and Thibodeau they go to church, and they were both going to a different church. You know, Boudreaux would go to the Baptist church, Thibodeau would go to the Catholic church, and they were directly across the street from each other. And one day they were both out there putting their scripture up on the board, you know, out the little words on the board, and man, they putting their signs up there and they putting it up there, and they back up, and both of them at the same time look at it and they see what they put up there, and they both wrote the same thing. It said, "If you don't want to perish, turn here." Man, Boudreaux and Thibodeau looked at each other and said, "Man, that is fantastic." About that time, here comes a truck hauling butt, not slowing down, not taking time to look at that sign, and bam, he run off the bridge into the river. Boudreaux and Thibodeau says, "Maybe we should change the sign to say, 'Turn here, the bridge is out.'" But that's, you know, working together has been these past 4 years, and being Speaker, I'll talk about that just for a minute. You know, when we got elected as Speaker, we had I meet with the former speakers of the houses, and we have a dinner once a year, and every one of them that comes to this meeting tells the same story. They said, "We would have not wanted to be Speaker these past 4 years that you had to go through, the things that you've had to endure, and the things that the state had to endure when it came to COVID, when it came to storms, when it came to freezes. Now we're dealing with a drought. It seems like just something every day turning around, and then having to deal with the politics and the misleading stories and things in Baton Rouge that went on. But I can tell you, with all of that being said, I wouldn't trade it for anything. And if I knowing what I know now, if there was a way to go back and do it again, knowing I was going to face all the same things, I would do it again, because of people like Vinny, who were always there when I needed them. That being said, I can tell y'all, we had a very, very successful 4 years. We had a very, very successful last session, and we done a lot of good things despite what we hear out there in the world. And when you look at the budget, when you look at the things that were accomplished, you look at the bills that were passed to help the state of Louisiana, we're in an election year, and you hear a lot of things out there where, you know, they want to go in and they want to fix this, and they want to go in and they want to fix this. And I heard one of them say the other day, we need transparency. We need to put up need to do like Ohio, and we need to pass the open checkbook. And I'm sitting in the crowd, and Senator Alon probably just said the same thing I said when I was sitting there. We already did that. It's already live, it's working, everything's going on. But here's somebody saying it, and the public don't even know that we have done it yet. And I tell people all the time, if you hear something, or you see something, or read something out there, everything we do is public information. It's online. And if you can't find it, call Senator Alon, call Vinnie, call me. Look, and I'm sure she's the same as I am. I have a legislative aide that will help you and guide you through it to look at it. If you can't find it, call one of us, because it's there. If it's too hard to believe, I can promise you it's probably not true. You need to look at it. Just because it's on social media doesn't mean it's true. That being said, let's talk a little bit about the dollars that were spent and the dollars that wasn't spent in Baton Rouge, because I know we hear all of these radio shows sometimes saying, oh, they spent all this money and they did everything. I want to say this. When we're in Baton Rouge and we're looking at projects and we're looking at things across the state and we're looking at investing in the state, it isn't about the money that we have, because I don't look at it as money that we have. It's money that y'all have. That money belongs to the public. It belongs to our constituents. It belongs to our municipalities. It belongs to our parishes. And when we're up there and people say, oh, you're just spending money wildly. Well, maybe we are. But me saying, I would rather give that money back to the communities so that they could do drainage, so that they could do council on aging and helping in the communities, that they could do something with the schools or something with higher ed. These are things that it's y'all's money. I don't need to hold y'all's money. Let's put it back out there into the parishes, into the municipalities, and the things that's going to move us all forward together. And that's what we faced this year. We had a big push to want to save a lot of money and just hold it here. Yes, we should be frugal on some of it. We should save some of it, but we should put the majority of it back in the community so that we get things done. Roads, bridges, education, whatever it may be. That being said, I'm going to touch on a few things through the budget that are hot items that we went through. One was crime and law enforcement. Crime is rapid all over the country. It isn't just in Louisiana. So don't think when you look at the news and you see the news and you hear shooting or something stolen, it's just happening here. It's not. It's everywhere. So this year we all sat down and we met with the senators, we met with everybody and said, look, what can we do to help? One was, of course, being able to pay our law enforcement, being able to do the things that they need to do. So we looked at it, we went in and we passed $2.3 million for a permanent supplemental pay raise for police officers throughout the state. That's huge for our police officers. We also went in and I saw this program in Florida where right now it's really hard to recruit good police officers and good people to come in and work. So what we did, the help of the Senate, the help of our legislators, we passed a program, an incentive program that said we're going to put $5 to $10 million aside, and if your police chief here wants to hire a deputy and he's never been a deputy before and he comes in, or a deputy out of state and he wants to come here, he gets a $5,000 sign-on bonus to be able to go to work. That is huge for these law enforcement. Your sheriffs, your police chiefs, your state police, all of them get to use these dollars to help recruit good men and women to be law enforcement ready. The other thing that we worked on was early childhood. Early childhood is significantly important. And you probably heard a big push in Baton Rouge about, they don't want to fund early childhood. Every legislator in Baton Rouge wanted to fund early childhood, and we did. The discrepancy we had was this. For the past 3 or 4 years, we were receiving federal dollars that came down to fund early childhood. It was sometimes 50 million, 70 million, you pick it. It was always a high number to help. Well, this year, that program cut out. It was gone. We didn't have a steady, reoccurring cash flow to be able to fund it over and over and over again. So we said what we need to do is just let the federal program run out because it was so high, and our state program will take it over. And when you say, oh, we have two, we do have two. We have two programs. I say we have two. Now we only have one. The federal program ran out. We didn't want to fund what the federal program had because we are one of the only states in the country that have 3 dedicated funds going directly to early childhood. And we have been collecting these funds for the past 6 years. And sitting in that state fund right now is over $300 million that hasn't been touched yet. So we have plenty of money for early childhood as we move forward. As long as those dedicated funds keep collecting and increasing, we're going to have good money for early childhood as we move forward. But we did go back, and we did, as a group, we went back and we did put extra dollars in there. We put $44 million on top of what our state had. So now we have roughly about $344 million in that early childhood education program. Higher ed was treated very well across the board. I think we ended up putting $125 million plus for operating expenses, and then roughly about $72 million in capital outlay projects for higher ed. Infrastructure projects. We have invested more than any other legislature in infrastructure projects. Highway Priority Program, Construction Subfund, Road Transfer Fund, Port Authorities, Water Sector, Coastal Protection and Restoration, and Capital Outlay Savings Fund. $450 million in one, $50 million in the other, 25, 50, 147, and $70 million. So when you see those dollars out there and you hear somebody saying, oh, well, we don't have the money to do these things, we put a lot of projects that these dollars are tied to across the state to be able to get done. The dollars are there. The problem we're having now is finding construction crews. There's a bridge project that was funded during the Jindal administration right now. The money's sitting there, and they're on their third construction group to build that bridge project. They don't have the employees. They don't have the people to show up to complete this bridge. They've got most of the pilings driven, but they don't have a crew to be able to go back and finish it. So right now that brand new bridge project is just sitting dormant, and there's no end in sight when we're going to be able to get it done. The other one that everybody looks at is insurance. Everybody in here is facing high insurance prices, and what can we do to do it? The first thing that we needed to do, and you know, sometimes making changes is good, sometimes making changes is bad. We do have a new insurance commissioner that I think is going to be very, very aggressive on putting policy in place to lower insurance rates. That being said, this year the legislature did a job on passing some legislation and doing two things that would help temporarily. One was a fortified roof program that Alabama had done years ago, and we put $20 million in this fortified roof program. That is eligible for anybody in this room. You can apply for it. We put $20 million there to help you get your roofs fortified. So if you're having a roofing project at your house and you need help on getting that roof fortified, you can apply for these dollars, and they will go in, and that will help you down the road lower your insurance costs when it comes to it. That's a huge benefit for us that costs everybody in this room nothing. So that was huge. The other one was we put $7.5 million into an insurance program fund to help attract more insurance companies to come to the state. The more competition you have, the better, the lower the rates are going to be. The more competition is going to bring that rate down. So we wanted to attract them, so we put these monies there. One thing, you know, the bad thing right now is we have so many policies stacked up on a very small group of insurance companies that are out there. And one thing I didn't want to be left out with that program that I stressed to Commissioner Donlin was we have some insurance companies that stayed here after the storm. They didn't leave. They didn't load up and go off to somewhere else. They stuck it out with all of us. And them being loyal, I wanted to make sure that they had first shot, and this delegation had first shot at being able to receive some of these dollars to help lower the cost on insurance. So we put it in the bill, we put it in statute that those insurance companies that had stayed and stuck it out with us would be the first ones to receive some of these dollars. So there's a lot of insurance companies out there that applied for these dollars to be able to help us. We did $53 million in cybersecurity. We did $20 million in voting technology, and I'll touch on that just for a minute. Voting technology, right now you hear a lot about voter fraud, voter irregularities across the country. The one thing that I will tell you is that does not happen in Louisiana. It does not happen. And I'll tell you why. And going through this session, dealing with the Secretary of State's office, dealing with legislators, the one thing that I did learn is by default, we are number 6 in the country with election integrity across the country. That's huge, because everything else you hear, we're at the bottom of the list, right? But we're actually at the top of the list. It is that way for one reason. We do have Dominion machines, and you heard all the negative out there about Dominion machines. The only good thing about the Dominion machines we have right now, they are so old. They were made before the internet could be bought to the public. They cannot be connected to the internet. They cannot be manipulated or miscounted. I went to a demonstration with him, and the guy that was there, and I'm listening to him talk and telling me how it works, and I looked at him, I said, you know what this reminds me of? I said, you know them little solar calculators you can buy at Walmart for $1? That's not connected, they just got the little solar panel on it, and you buy them for $1? I said, that's what this machine reminds me of. Because you can't connect it to the internet, and all it does is count. That's all it does. It counts the votes that come in. So we do need to upgrade. We do need to get new machines. That's what these dollars are for, to be able to go in and do that. We have one of the best. We have number 6 in the country and first in the South when it comes to it. The one thing that's good about our election system is we run a top-down election system. That being said, that means everybody out there follows what the Secretary of State's office puts in place. Florida, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, you have polling areas that have electronic voting. You have polling areas that have paper voting. It's different all across there. Each county is different. Here, everybody follows the same rules. Everybody uses the same machines. Everybody works together as a team. That's why ours is so successful. And we're one of the only states that mandates that you have to have a government ID to vote. That's hard to believe that some states, you don't have to have an ID to vote. You just walk up and you can vote. Yes. We were one of the first states to do it, and we're one of the only states that still does it. So that is huge for us on voter integrity and voter things. Now, newspapers, some TV shows and all that, you heard that we spent all of this money, and me and Vinny and the senator and all of us we just went hog wild with spending money. But what they didn't tell you was that we paid $700 million of debt down that been owed by the state since the 80s. $700 million. First time in history that this legislature or any legislature has ever paid down that much debt in one single swoop. That's huge and great for our state in the fact that the rate that we were being charged on that was so high, it was like having a credit card and having a high interest rate on it. We paid it off. In the future, we're going to be in a much better place because we don't have that debt anymore. The other thing is, Senator Alon was a key into this, along with his counterpart on the House side, Representative Bishop. We created 3 saving account programs. In those savings accounts programs, and I say this, I went back and double checked to be sure. First time in the history of Louisiana that we have left and put in those savings accounts $2.6 billion in savings for the next legislative administration coming in. First time ever. $2.6 billion, that's with a B, ever that we had those dollars left sitting there for the future of the state. We have never done that before, never even close to it before. This legislative body working together put something in place that helps the future of our state. So there's a lot of things we need to improve on in our state. There's no doubt about that. But I can tell you this legislative body that we had this past 4 years, I will put up against any other legislative body that's ever served in Baton Rouge. And that being said, on the House side and the Senate side, being able to talk and have conversations, being able to sit down in a room and have conversations, even with the administration, we would all meet and have conversations about which way we wanted to go. And look, sometimes we ended up walking out of there mad and slamming the doors, and we didn't talk. And then once we cooled off, we came back and we talked, and we found a way to get it done, because we're not up there voting for ourselves. We're up there voting for y'all. And every vote that he makes and every vote that he makes, they didn't vote for themselves. They voted for their constituents back home. There's a lot of things that I could have voted a different way on just by my perspective, but I wasn't voting for me. I was voting for my constituents, and my constituents advised me that this is the way they wanted to go, and that's the way we voted. So that being said, we had a very, very successful legislative year. I think the future is out there for us to be much more successful. This election cycle is really, really important, especially when it comes to electing legislators, electing a new governor. Really, really do your homework. Really, really look into those things. Right now, traveling the state, I can tell you there's not much interest in there. If I polled this room right now and asked you to name me everybody running for governor, how many people could tell me every name running for governor? You know, it's just not a lot of interest out there. You're hearing 1, 2, 3 names, but you're not looking at the big picture. Everybody needs to look at the whole picture and look at everybody. And even when it comes to Attorney General, Treasurer, Secretary of State, people ask me all the time, how many's even running in your race? Because we haven't heard from anybody else. I have 7. I have 7 of them running in our race. They're all good people. Every one of them are good people, but some you need to look at, some you need to check into more, ask questions, call them, do those things. That's across the board. But I think these elections are more important now because of the structure and the direction that these legislators have done these past 4 years and getting us in the right direction. So with that, it's always a pleasure to come out. I love coming out here. I apologize again, I was late. Hopefully we can come back next year in a different capacity and be able to talk. But we're going to keep working hard, and know that Louisiana and all of y'all are in my prayers, and I appreciate everything that y'all do for us. So thank you, and God bless you.
I was going to open it up for questions or comments. So,
I have a question. You talked about the $7.5 million in insurance that's there. Has there been any movement on it? Because in this parish, there's only one company that will write. I work for Cabot, a chemical plant here, trying to attract talent to move to this area with the prices that we're having to pay on insurance is extremely hard. I just bought in this parish from another parish, so I'm speaking firsthand. Absolutely. But we're also having a hard time getting people.
Some of it has been moved already. There's a few companies that have bought into it. So what we can do is check, if you would, when we get done. Give me your name and a number where I can reach you, and I'll follow up on it, and we'll follow back with you.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Speaker, regarding the possible sale of Blue Cross Blue Shield to another agency or a company out of state could result in higher premiums. Do you have any information on that? I know you'll be having a hearing pretty soon. What do you have on that?
You know, right now I don't have very much information on it. I do know that it has been brought to our attention that that's something that we do need to look into. We're gonna put a committee together, oversight hearing, and go in and look at it. I don't know the details on it right now, but as soon as I find out, I'm willing to come back and give you an interview and talk to you on it. Thank you.
Clay.
Senator?
First of all, thank you for being here today. It shows a lot, you taking the time to come here to do this. Just to reiterate, and you've heard the same criticisms and everything that we all have. But during this legislative session, we put away, and you mentioned it, $1 billion in the rainy day fund, $1.6 billion in the revenue stabilization, $130 million in the capital outlay savings fund, all money that we put away. In the meantime, there was a lot of infrastructure that needed to be taken care of that we've been waiting. There were the 4 Jindal years and the first 4 Edwards years where there was no money. We had to tell our constituents, sorry, we have no money. When we finally have money, and we try to address those, sitting right behind me is Jay Clune. We have a coastal center going up to educate and model the coastal restoration that we're going to do in this area. Very much needed for that center to be there. That was funded out of those funds. $20 million and another $7 million to put a new nursing school. I'm sitting here next to the CEO of the local hospital. She can tell you about the shortage of nurses that we've had since COVID. Very much needed that we start cranking out more nurses. None of this would have been possible if it wasn't for these funds being expended. And on top of that, I get real tired of people calling some of the things that we funded pork. Look over there at the Council on Aging. $500,000 in the last 2 years to buy vans to tend to our elderly that we should respect. Shea Hope, another $300,000 for their efforts for battered women. The Ark of St. Mary, the Ark of Lafourche, all of these agencies that do great work. I'm sorry, I don't consider that pork. I thank you for cooperating with us. I appreciate you and Stuart and Vinny for all the work that we did, and I think we really made a difference in this state.
Thank you. And look, he's right on that. We'll get lots of times where we'll get wrote up that we had these pet projects. Pet projects. How many of y'all consider law enforcement pet projects? I don't. I know good and well that back home, if I have a police department I have to call at night to come and help me, I want to make sure he's in a good vehicle to be able to come and get there and help us. Or he has a bulletproof vest on to be able to come and protect him and his family. I don't want anybody to perish. I want them to be protected. And if we have the dollars to be able to help those locals, it's y'all's money that we're putting back there to help protect you as well back home. Water systems. First time in history again. I mean, this legislature, you may not know it now or hear it now, and it may take 4 or 5 years down the road for people to actually look back and say, you know what, that legislative body did a good thing. How much money did we put in the water sector programs that we all...
$900 million.
$900 million to fund water system programs that everybody needs good drinking water across the state. $900 million that we put in there to help people who couldn't afford to get their water system back up and running. This legislative body, instead of just putting the money there and letting the administration do it, we didn't do that. We took it upon ourselves to put a committee together that said, okay guys, we're gonna have a criteria, you're gonna have a grading scale, and we're gonna go across that grading scale and you're gonna get graded to be able to get those dollars. They did that. If that's a pet project, okay, we have a lot of pets. Because when it comes to Council on Aging, when it comes to police, when it comes to our schools and our kids and those types of things, if they want to call them pets, they can call them pets. I know back home, when I go back home and I see that police officer or that young girl living next door going to nursing school, or my Council on Aging who invites me to lunch at least 3 times a month to go in my area, I'm tickled pink to be able to go there and see the things that they have accomplished with those dollars that we've sent there to be able to help them. So they want to call them pet projects, let them call them pet projects. I know that these guys and myself work very hard to be able to help our people back home. And I hate it that we have to now, good people, and not that we shouldn't, but it's very rare that you find a group of people like we did. And look, me and Senator Alon, me and Vinny, we didn't get along always neither. We disagreed. We had days that we didn't talk for 2 or 3 days to each other. Guess what? It's okay. Didn't mean, look, if he'd have called me and said, look, I got a flat tire, come help me change it, I'd been the first one there. But we sat down and we found a way to do it after those 3 or 4 days. And that's what you have to do. You have to have people that trust each other. You have to have people that want to be there. And it doesn't matter what party you're from, what race you are, or where you live. If it's the right thing to do, it's the right thing to do. So, any other questions?
Well, I just want to make a comment.
Yes, ma'am.
This gentleman was selected as Legislator of the Year for our association, 64 Council on Aging. It shows him when he was Speaker of the House because he stood up, and thank y'all for calling us pets, okay? Everybody needs a pet. You needed us seniors for y'all to be here, okay? So we are the beginning. And I thank you from the bottom of my heart for the 10,683 seniors we have in St. Mary Parish, because between y'all working together, y'all got us through a very, very hard time. And I hope that the future generations and the people that may be taking up the voting this time remembers that we were here. We founded this community, we stayed in this community, and now we're hurting real bad because I've got more people than I can feed right now. And I can't get people to go to work. I got the money to pay the people, but I can't get anybody to work, so therefore I can't deliver the food. So from the bottom of my heart for all 64, and by the way, Senator, you were runner-up. I never it was a close vote.
I'm willing to share it with him. We'll have it on halves. How about that?
I'll get him one of the tags. too.
Absolutely.
But thank you from the seniors. We do thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
And from the chamber, thank you for keeping it a secret because I've had the hardest time. Because I didn't want her to know because she is a great administrative assistant. She's a great person and she's a friend. And I thank y'all for honoring her today. And thank you for my crew because they got a free lunch on me.
Yes, sir.
One quick question. You mentioned roofs on houses. Does that pertain to commercial buildings also?
I'm not sure, but I would think it would when it comes to a fortified roof.
I asked, I just bought a 7,000 square foot building downtown Franklin and it needs a $45 roof. You know, so I'm just curious.
Well, I have your information, so I will check on that for you, and I will follow up with you on it to know for sure. But look, she's the Council on Aging. She's absolutely right. I mean, look, our senior citizens and look, traveling and talking to other speakers across the country. When we got to COVID, as big as a thing it was, the one thing the legislature did was, first thing was, how do we deal with our nursing homes and how do we deal with our senior citizens who need the most care right off the bat? And I can tell you right now, other states are still dealing with their nursing home situation, even to this day, where we were lucky enough. Was it hard? It was. It was tough to have those situations and those guidelines put in place. But now, go talk to our nursing home directors who are running them. They will tell you that what we did during those times were right on the mark. And not knowing what was going to happen or how it was going to happen, we took a chance and we just used, look, I don't think anybody in here was ever educated on a COVID class before COVID happened. We had to use common sense and we used the best technology and the best thing that we could, and it worked out. It really did. It was a shot in the dark, but we got there. So thank y'all again. If you have no more questions, none? I appreciate y'all again. Thank you again. God bless you.
Mr. Al, I believe you want to
I'm
say.
not going to take but a minute. I just want to thank the Chamber for the continued support of the Forest Restaurant. I've been here over 55 years. Many of you probably have heard that I'm trying to retire. My wife wants me to retire. I really don't, but I will be 77 in 30 days. So I think it's time. Peter Soprano spoke about a roof. He is now in the old St. Mary Hardware building, and he does tremendous work with wood. This is one of his wooden roof spoons. And on it, we have engraved Peter Soprano 23, Forest Restaurant, since 1967, Al Kuhlman owned a chef. I want to thank Senator for this $22 million building here. Y'all have no idea how much that is helping my restaurant, Diane's. People are coming to Franklin and they're supporting the community and they're supporting us in food, hotel rooms during the whole construction. Thank you very much. I want to give this first spoon, Peter, just come off the press, to Senator Allen.
Thank you, Al. Your house for sale at the forest at the desk in the front.
What's that?
We would have it for sale at the front desk in the forest. And his food. He really serves hot with some real food.
Well, that was a wonderful honor, and I know it's well deserved. Thank you again, Speaker Schexnayder, for joining us today and providing us with the updates. And we thank you for taking time out of your day for the lunch and for your continued support of the Chamber. Special thanks again to our today's Elite Luncheon sponsors, Bayou Bend Health System, Omega Waste, Intermore, Patterson State Bank, and for sponsoring our 2023 luncheons. Before we conclude, I'd like to invite our Chamber Administrator, Tradisha Hayes, to close out to provide any additional information. Thank you again. We really enjoyed it. Good speech.
Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to give a few updates. I would like to remind everyone that our office stands firm as a apolitical entity. We do not support specific candidates, but allow all candidates a platform to reach our members and the public through our office and forums. So all the campaign ads that you see come across our email blast are paid for by that campaign party. Tomorrow evening, we will be hosting our next forum in our series of forums. It is going to be the Parish President Forum, and that's going to be held at the Bayou Bend Fitness Center at 6 p.m. On Monday, September 25th at 6 p.m., we will be hosting the Sheriff Candidates Forum at the Patterson Civic Center. And lastly, in our best effort to be fair to all candidates running for Parish Council and provide the most information to the public, a digital publication will be released instead of hosting a forum. Each candidate has been invited to participate and answer the questions received from the public. The document will be released on September 29th. Thank you again for joining us, and y'all have a good rest of your day.